to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now our moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you, kids. You did a great job leading this. Thank you. Board members, you have seen a copy of the agenda for tonight. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Any comments or questions? All those in favor of approving the agenda as printed, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have none. Communications. We have a spotlight on education, level 5 school presentations from Mitchell Nielsen, Reed Rogers, and Bradley.
Good evening. First of all, before we start, thank you to Chad and the entire airport staff for hosting us tonight and giving us this great opportunity to see our students' hard work and for the refreshments. They worked really hard along with Ms. Terrell and her team to make tonight a success. So thank you to everyone for giving this opportunity for our kids. I did not climb in the airplane, even though Ms. Ford tried to get me to. All right. But tonight we are thrilled to recognize and celebrate the outstanding achievements of 3 of our exceptional schools whose dedication and commitment to student success have resulted in remarkable academic growth over the past year. These schools have all earned a level 5 TBOS growth score, which is the highest possible growth rating, which signifies that the academic progress made by the students in these buildings exceed the state's average growth. It's not just a number, though, it's a reflection of the tireless efforts of teachers, staff, administrators who work every day to ensure that every student is learning, is growing, and is thriving. Achieving level 5 growth is a testament to the power of high expectations, strong instructional practices, and a school culture that puts students first. It means that students in these schools didn't just meet expectations, they surpassed them. And when we grow students academically, we are doing more than just improving test scores. We're closing achievement gaps, building confidence, and laying the foundation of lifelong success. So I'm incredibly proud to shine a spotlight on these 3 schools tonight and celebrate their hard work, their perseverance, and the excellence that made this achievement possible. Their success is a beacon for our entire district and a reminder of what's possible when we stay focused on student growth. So I'm going to call the principals out, and I think I give the principals a moment to talk and introduce them to their team. But our first school we're going to spotlight is Mitchell Nielsen Elementary. We'll also be giving them the coveted guard sign that they
Dr. Duke gave me a minute. It'll be tough. I want to introduce my superstars here. We have my coach, Sarah Johnson, assistant principal, Melinda Crick, and assistant principal, Alex Juno, who are all amazing. As y'all know, I'm Adam Bryson. I'm principal at Mitchell Nelson. I always tell people, being a teacher, an educational assistant, a counselor, a principal, an assistant principal is hard. Like, the job of doing school is hard. And nights like this kind of are cool because it gives you an opportunity to celebrate your successes, celebrate your hard work. So thank you guys so much for giving us this opportunity. And my phone went dead. I want to take a minute to just say a heartfelt thank you to those who made it possible. I want to start off by saying thank you to the Mitchell Nelson students. They are amazing. Some of the hardest working kids you'll ever find. And second, I want to just do a shout out to the amazing staff I have. The teachers, educational assistants, comm coaches, counselors, speech pathologists, support staff. We have some of the most amazing staff you have. It's their dedication, their passion, their hard work is why we're able to stand up here and receive this achievement. I say this, at Mitchell Nelson, we want to be a trajectory changing school. You probably heard Dr. Duke talk about that. A school where our students' futures are transformed forever. That's what we want to be. So I'll say this level 5 is not like a yard sign. Yard sign is not a stamp. It's not like a celebration. It's the beginning of Mitchell Nelson's future. Like, this is where we're headed, so get used to seeing Mitchell Nelson in the environment. Absolutely. And I want to say this. This is off script, sorry, Trey. But When I interview people, at some point in the interview, I always say this: if you want to work for me, you got to have two characteristics. You need to be a hard worker and you need to love kids. If you love kids and you work hard, we can accomplish anything. And what I'll say is my teachers in my school are some of the best curriculum people you got, some of the most intelligent people I've ever met, but more importantly, they all love kids and they all work hard. And that's why we're living. So thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Adam and Ms. Nelson. We're so proud of the work. I want to say next a very special congratulations to our next school we're honoring, which is Reeves Rogers. And before they come up, one of the reasons I'm so proud is that this is their three-peat year, year 3 of being a level 5.
I did ride everybody here with jeans passes. You had a bunch of us. Oh, you're too far from me, Sarah. Come on now. Come on. You gotta stand next to me, Sarah. I can love. All right.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Liz Ruby. I am the principal at Reeves Rogers. That still is not completely rolling off my tongue the way it should, but I'm getting there. Level 5 is the highest possible rating for academic growth, as I've already been told, right? But doing it 3 years in a row shows incredible strength, consistency, and commitment for our entire school community. To our dedicated teachers and staff, thank you for pouring your heart into every lesson, every student, every day with no missed moments. To our students, man, their hard work, resilience, and growth mindset are the reason why we are all here today. And of course, I can't be up here without thanking the families, the partnership, and the support that's essential to everything that we do. It truly takes a village, and I couldn't be prouder to serve as the principal with Ms. Harper. That was much faster. I saved some time.
And our final school that we're going to celebrate tonight, who has achieved this honor now for the 4th year in a row, is the incomparable Dr. Lewis, and his team from Bradley Academy. Come on, Bradley.
They are so excited about coming up. Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Just want to thank you all for this opportunity, for this recognition. This is a true reflection and testament to the hard work of all of our teachers. We have such a wonderful, this is just a few of them, between our teachers, our EAs, our support staff, our custodians, individuals in the cafeteria, assistant principals, instructional coaches. One common characteristic about them that I would say is that we all love kids and we all have the high expectations for students coupled with high support that we know students are going to need to reach those expectations. So just want to thank you all again for this opportunity. Again, this is a true reflection of the great work of our teachers. Our students really work so very, very hard every single day. And then also just that wonderful, if you know Bradley, that wonderful community that I'm sure every school has, but that wonderful community that Bradley is surrounded and loved and supported by between the students and the families and the community partners and everything like that. So again, thank you so much and good job, Bradley.
So we're going to congratulate them, put your yard signs out with pride, and thank you for what you do. And we're just so excited to celebrate the success of all of our schools and the hard work that's happening in all 13 of our buildings, but to shine a special spotlight on these 3 for this achievement. So thank you, Ms. Moore.
Thank you. That's really incredible. Congratulations, everybody.
All right, next is public comment. We have no public comment tonight. And then we have our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Price. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the consent items are passed. Our first action item tonight is approval of the LEA compliance report. Dr. Duke.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. School districts are required to comply with all federal and state education laws and state Board of Education rules. The annual compliance report that you have in your packet tonight is one mechanism the department uses to ensure that education laws, rules, and state and federal laws are faithfully executed. The Commissioner of Education is charged with taking a corrective action when an LEA is non-compliant with those laws or rules and is not following a department-approved compliance plan. Each school district in the state must submit this report after board approval, and if applicable, a corresponding corrective action plan to address any areas where they're not following state or federal laws by November 28th. The report tonight does state that we are in compliance with all state and federal laws. I will sign that as well as Mr. Moore after the board approves it, and we will submit that to the state for state law.
Do I have a motion to approve the 2025 compliance report?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, take a vote. All those in favor of approving the MCS 2025 compliance report, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the compliance report is approved. Next is approval of a contract for a fiscal auditor. Dr. Duke.
Yes, you also have a contract with Joe Hastings and Associates provided for the annual audit of the Murfreesboro City Schools for the fiscal year that we've just started, which will end June 30th, 2026. This is required by the Tennessee Comptroller of the Treasury. The audit field work will actually begin in the fall of 2026, with the final report to be submitted to the Tennessee Comptroller's Office and to the board. A total estimated cost of the engagement is $45,800, which includes $43,300 for the annual audit and $2,500 for the required chart of accounts crosswalk. The firm's work is billed at an average rate of $125 an hour, and interim billings may be issued as work progresses with prior consent from the district. This amount is budgeted and will be paid out of the general purpose funds. I do want to note, this is actually approving the contract for this fiscal year's audit, and we have yet to get our current audit with Mr. Owens. We should expect that current audit before December.
They're currently working on it. I would assume they'll hopefully have it in the first part of November, if not by December, so we can get the full budget in.
So this is actually for, even though we haven't, they're still working on last year's audit, this is getting that contract for next year in place. But we're happy to answer any questions you may have, and we're recommending approval as presented.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026 audit contract with Joe Hastings?
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Suttles. Any comments or questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. They have done such an extraordinary job for us year after year. They're thorough. I appreciate their guidance and how they're able to keep us accountable, keep ourselves accountable. I'm very glad to have them come back on board again.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, let's vote. All those in favor of approving the fiscal year 2026 audit contract with Joe Hastings, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the contract is approved. Next is approval of a contract renewal with Final Site. Dr. Duke.
Yes, MCS is seeking approval to renew our agreement with Final Site, which is the company we use for web hosting for all of our 13 schools' websites, plus our ESP website. It's for not only the website, but content management and integration services. The renewal term will begin December 18th and continue to 2025 and continue through December 17th to 2030. Under the terms outlined in Final Site's renewal confirmation notices, the services will include the website, feeds, Active Directory integration, and all the translation services, so families can translate the language on the website. The total cost of the 5-year agreement is $65,620. That will be divided over the 5 years of the term, and we budgeted and paid from our general purpose fund. And we're happy to answer any questions you may have. We're recommending approval as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve renewal of the contract with So moved. Thank you, Ms. Long. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, let's vote. All those in favor of approving the renewal of the contract with Final Site, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the renewal is approved. Next is approval of a budget amendment, AALN.
MCS was awarded $40,000 for the Preschool Access for All Network grant. This grant focuses on empowering districts to increase opportunities for children ages 3 through 5 by expanding developmentally appropriate environments and high-quality instruction. The grant will purchase classroom items for items such as fine motor skill materials, sensory items, art supplies, and appropriate seating. The funds will also cover the cost of substitute teachers to allow our pre-K teachers to attend professional development sessions and to observe in the classrooms. This grant will also fund a stipend for the teachers who attend the AALN professional development outside of contract hours. This is the second year we've had this grant for pre-K. If you remember last year, that amount was for $50,000 and it had to be used for classroom materials. So this year we're going to use some of the $40,000 for that, but it'll be mainly to pay for teacher training, professional development, and so on for the state plan. Ms. Newell's here. If she was here, I think she would speak to the benefit that this AAL program has been for our pre-K teachers, and really shout out to them, not to go off track, but with our new CLA pre-K building that the city helped us with and that new standalone site, and through this work, Sherry may know, but I think we've hosted 4 or 5 different districts from across the state to come and see. The state has, through the work of this grant, made recommendations. They've come, they've toured that facility, looked at some of the good work happening with that pre-K. So really exciting things. We're excited, glad to have the funds from the state to help support that work.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this budget amendment to recognize the AALN grant?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Price. Any questions or comments? Mr. Campbell?
Dr. Duke, is this for supplies and materials and all? How is this divided? For school or for teachers?
It's per classroom.
Okay.
Is how I'm, is that correct, Mr. Bryant? It's per classroom. So specifically for our, and it works through, of course, Ms. Newell works with that, along with Kim Fisher, who's in our finance department. So they first make sure they have the supplies needed. That was the focus of the grant this year. And then this year we'll offer the opportunity for all of our pre-K teachers to attend the after-hours professional development. But a lot of what they do is also during the school day, getting subs for them to go and observe the classrooms and so on during the school day.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor of approving the fiscal year 26 budget amendment to recognize the AALN grant, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the budget amendment is approved. Reports and information. Our first report is our enrollment report. Mr. Orchard.
Thank you.
Good evening, board.
Good
evening,
I'm gonna go
sir.
with a couple slides if you don't mind. So I know you have the information ahead of you, in front of you, should I say. So this is period 2. We've started period 3, and looking at period 2, our enrollment has increased by 15 students. So we're seeing a little bit of growth, which is a good thing. When we take a look at our average daily attendance, we are 0.6% higher than we were last year at the end of period 2. So that's exciting. So we're at 96.1%. As we take a look at our truancy rate, we have 28 students that are absent. Some of those are in cases where kids have moved as well, so they're no longer in the district, but they've been there for that time as well. When we take a look at our chronic absentee rate, we are at 13%, roughly kind of averaging that number. We're about 300 kids less than we were last year, which is a good thing. So we're 1% lower. So those numbers are looking promising as well. And again, chronically absent rate, that is 4 days for the period 2 time period. Our PTR numbers, as we take a look, are relatively strong. So for kindergarten through 3rd grade, it's 0.16, which is a plus, and a 0.02 for grades 4 to 6, and a district total of 0.11%. As we take a look at the 2-year comparison, we're looking strong. We're below those trends. So that's the 0.6 that you see as well. That's just a basic snapshot of our attendance for period 2. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Campbell?
Yeah, do we have any idea on why students leave?
Why they are.
Do you get any
why
feedback from
So
parents?
to clarify your question, so why they're leaving MCS or why they are out
Well,
for the day?
Yeah, why they're leaving MCS or why they're leaving a particular school.
So for multitude of reasons. Sometimes it's a matter of families moving locations, whether that's for more affordable housing, whether it's for work, whether it's for family relocation, there's reasons there. Sometimes it's a matter of moving from one part of town to the other part of town as well. So those are just some of the basic.
But we don't do any kind of a interview or exit interview or anything like that.
Not essentially, but we do have transfer codes that we take a look at. So if we look back at our board workshop that we did in August, some of the reasons that I shared with you all was here's those reasons. So we do track that, and it's possible to pull the reasons where they're going. It doesn't say why, but it tells you where they're going. And we see that most of our kids are leaving because we're a K-6 district. A lot of those kids in 5-6 are moving on to further county as well.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Next, we have a capital plan update. Dr. Duke.
Oh, I love it when it works. Okay. Well, Ken hit a little bit about enrollment, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that today, and just kind of give the board an update and some information I'll be presenting to City Council on Thursday as well as part of the retreat. Want to make sure you have their retreat is coming up, and make sure you have some of this information ahead of time too, as we look at specifically our need for new classroom space in the district and what that may look like. So, kind of to give you kind of a multi-year comparison, and Mr. Rocha hit on this, but going all the way back to 2016, 2017, you can see our enrollment count, and you can see this year we're sitting right under 9,000 students, which is a decrease of about 360 students. As Ken said, we picked up a little bit. We grew 15 students in period 2. We continue to grow throughout the year. Our smallest enrollment numbers are typically August, September, and then May, right? But we kind of tick up all the way around Christmas time. We usually hit our peak, and so on. So these are all period 9 numbers into the year versus our beginning of the year. When we look at that 350 student drop, again, we've talked about this a lot. 81 of those students are kindergarten students, so significantly lower kindergarten. So that's 4 classes of kindergarten. I'll emphasize again, that is not a Murfreesboro City issue. That is a everywhere. Kindergarten numbers are significantly lower. I was in a meeting today with Dr. Sullivan. He was talking about their kindergarten numbers are down. Several districts around the state, especially in this area, we're seeing lower kindergarten numbers. And in a lot of districts that have middle school and high school, that's where they're actually seeing increases in student counts. Well, we don't have that. So we don't have that kind of offset the loss of kindergarten. Our 6th grade is down 48 students this year compared to where they were last year. So since 2022, when that was kind of the peak of right after COVID, when we are down over 200 6th grade students. And we've really seen the last few years when we had some space issues and we kind of shifted some of our 6th grade around because of spacing issues. And then we've just seen more of a natural attrition of more and more families moving on to middle school at 6th grade. So those are the 2 big drops. Interestingly enough, where we also see a significant drop, also not specific to Murfreesboro City, is that 3rd to 4th grade transition. Again, that's a statewide issue, really associated with the 3rd grade retention enrollment. You will see families pull their children out from there. Other impacts that we're dealing with, and probably the biggest challenge we have, is in this kind of changing educational environment with vouchers, with charter schools, with the push for homeschooling, with the continued kind of push for school choice, it's becoming very difficult for us to really do some long-term forecasting of where we need growth. So we work really closely with the city to help identify where homes are going up that we think will kind of naturally go to our schools, especially if they're in a dual zone area. But what we do know is that our private schools are continuing to grow, our homeschool numbers continue to grow, and with these other factors, we're just trying our best to kind of see where we are. So you can kind of see there is kind of a zigzag pattern the last few years with our enrollment. I will say, and I'll say this at the end, we are anticipating kind of a kindergarten boom next year. We may be wrong, but we are anticipating that. These will be babies for 9 months after the start of the pandemic will be coming to us. When you look at enrollment by school, you can see kind of where we are. And this is a little deceiving because our buildings hold different amounts. I'm going to show capacity in just a second. But you can see a couple ones I'll point out. I want to point out Overall Creek specifically. That is, they're taking 914. The reason I really point that out is because that is the school that we lost the most students to the charter school because of proximity. That's also the school that we expected most to pull a significant amount of students for the new county elementary school that opened. And we did not lose nearly what we thought we were going to lose. You've been by Overall Creek recently, you've also seen the large number of homes that are going in directly across the street. That's something that we are definitely watching. The orange schools, the 3 orange bars, which is Bradley, Irma Siegel, and John Pitter, all 3 of those schools actually saw enrollment increases last year. So those numbers are higher than they were last year. This is a little more telling, which is our capacity sheet, which we look and see what percent capacity are we at, or how much really room do we have within those buildings. As a district, we're sitting at 88% capacity. That's allocating rooms for making sure we have rooms for ESL, making sure we have rooms for an intervention and special education and CDC and pre-K. Mr. Barch and I were reviewing it just yesterday, kind of looking to see where could we put more students as we anticipate future growth. Always, as we think about new buildings and looking at things like that, how do we make sure we're using all the available space we have? So as a district, we're sitting at 88% capacity. If you look at the orange bars, that's where we're at over 90% capacity. So you can see there was 7 schools that's over 90% capacity. Some of my concerns are, as we look at this, at the blue schools where we're not at 90% capacity, those are not areas that we're growing as a city. Like, there's not a lot of growth happening in those areas. Versus if you look at overall, you look at Black Fox, Irma Siegel, overall, Salem, those are the schools I'm most concerned about because there's some significant growth happening there, and they're already close to 100% capacity as it is, and pretty significant growth. Black Fox and Salem are probably my 2 biggest concerns right now as we think about it. Black Fox, there's significant growth happening on that side of town. Black Fox, a very desirable school, has excellent staff, great reputation. They have one of our biggest 6th grade programs, again, because it's a really desirable place to go. So I envision that's something we're watching very closely. Salem, again, very desirable school. If you've driven by Salem, there's about 300 homes going up literally next door. So within walking distance, pretty significant home build out happening right there. They've already started that. And again, you're looking at a school that's at 92% capacity with the potential of another 350, 400 homes that you can see from your front door within the next few years. So those are the ones we're watching. Of course, overall, lots of new growth happening over there. And then there's some new growth going around over Siegel as well that we're really watching carefully. So in the capital improvement plan that the board approved, that the city council will be reviewing later this week, we have in there the cost of a new build. And if you remember the capital improvement plan, we changed the language from new school to new school / or additional classroom space. So this is the price tag we have in the capital improvement plan that we submitted, which is around $55 million for a new building that would hold about 960 kids. That's based on the fact that we would have 2 CDC classes, which is very standard. And you can see the price there based off that price was, I think we worked with the city, I think it was Bedford County that we looked at, John, is that correct? To kind of get that price with Johnson & Bailey as well. So obviously it's a pretty big price tag. We did, last year when I met with city council and reviewed this, talked about, I said this August, hopefully we would know more about our enrollment. Obviously our enrollment has gone down a little bit. So we actually, on that CIP that the board approved, we pushed that 1 year. So we actually pushed the funding for a new school as potential to 2028 instead of 2027 because the need is not there right now, but we do know it's coming. One of the options that they asked us to look at was what would be an option of adding an extension to a building versus a brand new build out. So one of the things we've looked at, and Mr. Barch has been working on a lot, is what would it look like on the west side to add an extension to Case and Lane Academy. I'm going to go back, so don't make you sick, but if you look here, Case and Lane is our one west side school that is not at capacity, or not even above that 90%. So that 74% means we could fit about 200 more students at Case and Lane Academy in its current design. When you think about pairing Case and Lane with our other west side schools, all of which are over 90% and in areas that are growing, that's where it makes the most sense to kind of relieve some classroom space, to relieve some overcrowding, and to prepare for future growth. So when we think about that, here's kind of a mock-up of what that would look like. If you see right here, this is, if you're familiar with Case and Lane, this is the second grade wing. So looking at extending that, we've done extensions at Black Box, we've done extensions at Hobgood, we've done extensions at, help me out, Lisa. Reese Rogers, obviously, yes. Saw that right there. We've done several of them. So what we kind of did a mock-up would be, what would it look like if we added additional classroom space? Now this is just a mock-up that they were helping send us based on some other ones they've done. Ours would not be exactly like this if we decide as a board to kind of move down this pathway. Recommendation in conjunction with City Council, we would go for 8 full classrooms, which would give us space for another 160 to 180 students. So if you pair that with the additional 200 students that they could fit now, we're looking at about a 400 student increase to that building that we could actually look at doing. I did point out, we did ask them to include a small gym, not a full-size gym like we have, but a smaller gym. And then we would make this a little bigger, put over here a small cafeteria eating area. The reason why, if you're adding almost 200 more students to that building, if you don't add these spaces, you're talking about starting lunch at 8:14 in the morning, right? And going till 3 in the afternoon. That's not feasible for kids. So we have to have some additional space for cafeteria, additional dining space for them. And then again, because of the PE requirements, and we would probably also need to have some additional space so all students had access to PE in the gym and so on. So we've tried to think that through as well as just backwards. So we didn't want to approach this and just say, hey, let's build 8 classrooms with no additional space. How do we build this and then prepare for that growth as well? Again, Case and Lane is the most viable school to do this at. One, based on its location being in the right area of town, and because of the land that's available there. They have enough land for us to add that without making major issues. Mr. Barchin Daniel and I looked at, did an aerial shot, I think, of every school in the district. There are some other places we could, but this is absolutely where it would make the most sense. From a comparison, you're looking at an extension to a building would be closer to, with our original quote, somewhere between $9 and $11 million. So significantly less money. You can also see the operating increase is significantly less as well. Of course, from an operational standpoint, if you're looking at a elementary school with over 1,200 students in it, you're looking at additional administrator, additional support staff, such as PE, art, looking at that, of course, increasing EAs. So there's definitely an operational increase to that, not as significant as a brand new building. So this is the chart that we'll be kind of talking to City Council about as we meet with them to understand. Again, this was at some of their requests to look at that price of an extension and what it would look like, and so we wanted to make sure you had this information first. It is not my intent to stand in front of City Council and say we need to start this right now, right? Our enrollment has gone down, but we do know that it's coming, right? And so we want to make sure we have some viable options. We do anticipate, kind of in summary, I'll rewind a little bit. That decrease in enrollment, again, kindergarten, 6th grade heavy. We know that public education landscape is changing. There's a new RCS elementary school that opened. So that really is playing into that decrease of 350 kids, and the fact that we don't have middle school and high school where other districts are seeing that growth. We don't have that to kind of balance that out. We do anticipate significant growth at Salem and Black Box, kind of most urgently is where we think that will happen. We are really limited on additional expansions of other school properties. So again, Case and Lane seems to be that kind of ideal place to do it if we decide to move in that direction. And then looking forward, some things we're thinking about and that we will be talking to the board more about at closer to the holiday time and when we come back for second semester. Really looking at our 6th grade, we know that that enrollment has gone down. Again, this is the era of school choice, and that 6th grade is a choice that we're offering families. We want to make sure, though, if we're offering that choice, we can do it well and give students the best 6th grade experience. In a lot of our schools, that is what's happening. I see Ms. Striegel there, so I'll talk about. She has 3 6th grade classes there, 3 really robust 6th grade classes. Similar for John Pittard. I think I saw Ms. Phillips. She's sitting at 2 6th grade classes there. But then we know this year at some other buildings, we have much smaller 6th grades. And so what we're talking about with hubs is how do we make sure that we're grouping students together, which we've gotten really good at. That started with Reeves Rogers when we had a low class there. We combined them with Hobgood. Similarly, we've done with Irma Siegel and John Pittard. And we've had success with that. We know how to do that. We know how to offer that to families if that's something that they really want, which is another year with us in city schools. But we do want to make sure we're thinking now about how do we put those hubs in place so that it makes sense and that it's best for students ultimately. So with that, like I said, when I go to City Council and we talk about that and they're looking at that, my message to them is not, we have to start moving forward with the new building immediately, but we do want to look at options and let them know that we're looking at options first on using every available space we have, maximizing that, making the responsible choice when it comes to our funding, but also be really clear that on that west side, we are going to see there are more homes going up that is definitely going to impact overall Creek. It's definitely going to impact Salem Elementary. It's definitely going to impact Scales. So we've got to be thinking about a plan for that to help relieve some of that in conjunction with the rezoning. Because again, it does make sense if we had to rezone to move students among those west side schools. It would not make as much sense for families to move them from the west side of town into the inner cores. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Again, this was really just kind of a preview, so you had some of the information that I'd be sharing with council later this week. And again, happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Campbell?
This is primarily for the west side, and I understand that. Now, I hate to bring this up because it's not a word that most school boards enjoy listening to, but that's called rezoning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That will be mandated somewhere, particularly the west side.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna have to really look at, and I'm gonna be honest, it's the challenge we're having of when we look at our enrollment hasn't grown drastically over the last few years and it's stayed pretty stagnant. We're seeing homes coming, but we also know that we see our kindergarten numbers have gone down several years in a row. This isn't a one-year issue, it's kind of ticked down. So whether that's families can't afford, young families can't afford homes in the city, I don't know. Whether it's, you know, they're making other decisions, it's just really difficult to forecast what we need. What we want to plan is, yes, on the west side, if we build this extension, and even if we don't, we may have to do some initial rezoning to, depending on how quickly the growth happens around Salem, we may have to do some initial rezoning. Then if we see the need and we build the extension, pull more students over. So some of two phases. So our goal would not be move them somewhere else, but kind of an initial sweep toward Cason, and then as if we decide to go with an extension there, another sweep toward Cason with more kids going in that direction.
There are not too many school boards, I don't think, that are strong supporters of the voucher program. And I know this board is not. Do you think that if voucher eligibility is increased from 10,000 to 20,000 like they're wanting to do now, is that gonna have a major impact on us?
Well, I think it's not one factor, it's multiple factors. So I do think if they increase the voucher count, you know, I was asked this question today about how many of our students zone Murfreesboro City receive vouchers, and we don't know, right? The state's not collecting that data, so we don't know what the impact is. What I can say is we have an increase in charter schools, we have the implementation of vouchers, we have a new school that's open in the county, and our enrollment has gone down. Like, that's what I can say. So I think it's multiple things that we're looking at. I do think if they increase the vouchers, which I don't know why they wouldn't do it, they maxed out this year as part of that law is, if they max out the vouchers, they'll open up more vouchers. So I do think there'll be more for grabs. I do think families will take advantage of that. For the majority of our private schools, most of those schools are currently have waiting lists or at capacity. Do I expect we'll continue to see private schools open? Yes. I think that's just the future of where we're going to be. So will it impact us? Yes. And I don't like giving non-answers. I just feel like it's been incredibly difficult. I don't know, long time ago, Mr. Barch, if you want to add to that, it should be really hard for us to project out kind of what we're doing.
As long as I've been here, 20 years, we've been able to project almost with a high degree of certainty. The last 4 or 5 years, we haven't been able to hit that high degree of certainty. Is pretty good, but it's just getting more difficult, like Dr. Reed said.
So when I think about a long-term plan, I think we'll see what happens with the vouchers. I do think we'll see an increase in kindergarten numbers next year. I feel very confident about that. We have room for that. I think as those homes begin to open in the Black Box and Salem area, we're going to have to look at doing some initial, possibly rezoning of neighborhoods if needed. We could also use our 6th grade hubs, kind of work with those. As I've always said before, the 2 areas that can give us some more space is looking at where our pre-K classrooms are and looking at where our 6th grade classrooms are. If we can do some movement there to free space up, again, especially as we think about when we open Cason Lane pre-K, and Ms. Street, I think there's on the spot, do you need pre-K left in your building?
Yes.
2. Yeah, but we were able to pull the pre-K room, you had 4, correct? We were able to move the pre-Ks to areas, and that's great, where we have that space. We can continue to do that. So, you know, again, those students have never been in school before. So we have some ability to make some initial shifts, but if you look at our enrollment as a whole, and I'll go here, sorry, I kind of marked it because after COVID we had that huge bump. We did some really strategic moves after COVID when we hit almost 9,500 kids. With that rezoning, with moving pre-K, we did some shifts, we went down, we jumped back up, we continue to make shifts with pre-K and sixth grade. Again, our enrollment kind of settled a little bit. But there are ways we can do some immediate changes without having to do rezoning, is my first step. But depending on how much of an impact those homes have, we may have to do an initial rezoning, followed by a second phase of that rezoning if we have to add an addition to it.
Ms. Moore, I have a question.
Sorry.
So, you're thinking the Case and Lane extension is the only one that's on your radar right now? Like, we only need one extension right now?
We have room for an extension at Case and Lane, and it's in the right area. We could not extend at Black Hawks. We've already extended there once, we couldn't extend there. So again, but we have some other ways we can kind of control classroom space there if we need to, but not to say my long-term, and this is very early, I want to be very clear. You know, my initial thought is we do some initial rezoning toward Case and Lane. If at that point we see we really do at that point need to approach city council about an extension versus a new build, we do that, and then with that extension do a full district rezoning.
Yeah, I would like to avoid rezoning if we can, but that might not be possible.
Yeah, the last time we
Mm-hmm.
rezoned was in 22-23, and we were able to do it really contained. We were really freeing up space at Overall Creek, at Scales, and at Salem. And we were able to do it just to impact those schools. And I will say, you hear rezoning horror stories. It was not as bad, I think, the public, I think, really understood. And because of the way we handled it and the way the board voted on it, of course, it made a lot of sense. And so we did not get, immense pushback from that. No one wants to rezone, no one wants to do it. I'll be clear, but it is a necessity.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
is it possible to pre-zone? So, you have a new area of new subdivision coming in. Is it possible to pre-zone a subdivision rather than having to shift people around? You've got an area that's being built with 300 houses. Okay, you buy in this area, this is where you're gonna be zoned in the city. Is that possible?
You can do that. I'll use, and I hate to keep going back to the Salem example, but it's where I live. I drive by it every day. So, it would be really hard to look at that neighborhood that's coming up where you can see the school out your window.
Right, I
And
understand
to
that.
say, hey, if you build here, I think there's going to be an expectation from families that's where they attend, and say we're busing you here.
I understand
It
that.
can be done.
Yeah.
I think there would be some really strong messaging about that, and then also transportation. We have to figure that out. So, could it be done? Yes, it could be.
Madam Chair, if I
Mr.
may,
Richardson.
in response to what you questioned, Mr. Vice Chair, I think that turns that out not every family can afford private schools. So even if 10 more private schools were to pop up in and around Murfreesboro, I think there's a threshold by which we cannot fall beneath. And we provide an incredible education, incredible resources, and I think it's superior to many of these private schools. But I don't think you will find such growth in these choice alternatives that we've got attrition that's going to affect the quality of our education, the quality of our educators. Murfreesboro City Schools will have a bright future regardless of what the state tries to put down our throats.
Well, I agree, and I think we saw that with the report that came out this past week on where those vouchers went to.
Yeah.
And they didn't, well, I'm not gonna get off on that, but.
Well, we can get off on it a little bit
You can.
because
Well,
they did
you
not
know,
go to all the
the-
places that they said they were gonna go.
The voucher system is good for the people that are
Already in.
private schools.
already there. The low income, they may get the $7,000 voucher, but they can't come up with the other 7,000.
Yeah.
That's right.
And to go to a private school today, it's gonna cost you right
Yes,
at
sir.
15,000 or more.
Yeah.
per child.
Well, and I think to Mr. Richardson's point, at the end of the day, overwhelmingly, the overwhelming majority of the students are going to be in our public And so we have to be prepared for that and continue to be for it. And so I do think there'll be a threshold point of, where I just don't know. I can't point, again, I keep getting asked, what is the impact of vouchers to the school system? Like, yeah, I don't know yet. Like, I don't know. I'm just gonna be honest with you, it's too early to tell. I can tell you our enrollment went down, but I can also tell you we have 3 charter schools in Rutherford County now. We have a new elementary school. We have lower birth rates across the Middle Tennessee area. That's not just impacting us, impacting all kindergarten numbers. And so there's just a lot of factors that have played into this to kind of keep us where we are. So I feel good that I can say, if we get a significant bump next year, which I anticipate, we can hold that. And that's not going to be, we can meet that. It's just what happens if that continues to go up as it has in the past. Then we have to be prepared as kind of what our options are. And I present this to say, I feel confident we can go to city council and say, our only option is not a brand new building.
Right.
That is not the only option we have.
And Madam Chair, I sort of went off on my tie right there, but I want to say that you offered a prudent plan as an alternative, and I think that goes to your budgeting that we've been able to use for years now that's kept us growing. So I think this is a prudent way to look at alternatives rather than spending millions of dollars for a shiny new building when there are other options that can still provide a quality education that doesn't disrupt families. So thank you.
And our taxpayers will appreciate that.
Dr. Holly, they will.
We used to do that alternative plan with not building, but with portables.
Yeah.
Portables is a bad word.
I understand, tell me, I know.
And we don't have to support students in any portables.
That's
We do have
great,
some
I'm
portables
glad.
in our district. We don't have any students that are in there for their full class experience. We may have, again, music is there, so they may go out to go through music class, but we don't have students that, for lack of a better word, live in portable all day, which has been something we should be proud of that we've been able to manage, because that has come at a cost. And so, but that's good for our students and it's good for our
I just also want to say one thing. I think the long term is really hard to predict, because what I wonder about is as we see this choice landscape and parents start to think of public schools not as a default but as a choice, and you start to compare public schools with new private schools that are going to pop up because of vouchers, the quality that once we see what comes from charter schools, and you look at this, I think parents may also start to realize it's a great choice to come to public schools.
Right.
And so we may see more return and the shiny new things, because I think there's something psychological for parents to feel like, I've chosen to put, this is a limited place, I can choose to put my child here. And when you start to think of public schools as I chose to send my child here, it takes on a whole new spin, and it just feels like it's such a great value and a great education that comes from it. And then I think parents will realize it's a great choice for their families.
Yeah, and we want to hold that bar high because we want families to feel that it is a great choice.
Exactly.
And I think the comments we can kind of say we're doing that now, but it's also why when we talk about the strategic plan that we're about to start launching, we've added that 5th goal around making sure that we are helping to communicate that to our community, that this is not just where you get to go, get in here. This is a choice. And we want to make sure that you recognize it's the choice you're making, and you're making a good choice for your families.
Well said.
I want to say something too. Of course I do. I think that's good. I think also a lot of credit to the educators that we have, because there is a teacher shortage nationwide. And I feel that there will be more private schools coming into the area. But just as we have, I don't say difficulty, but it takes a little bit, Maria, to staff all our schools with quality teachers, right? They're gonna have the same issues. You can build a school and you can put the building together, but you still gotta get quality educators in there. And I think, and I fear that some of these schools that will be coming on board that we'll see soon will be taking scraps, for lack of a better word, not to disparage anybody, but they'll have to take what they can get, because and speaking for Murfreesboro City, we provide such an environment that good educators, and educators that want to be here for a long time and that have that experience want to come to us. So I think we address it on all points, which is to make it a good experience, not just for the teachers, not just for the students, the parents, but also for the educators to make them want to come, which gives us even, I was so proud to see Mitchell Nielsen at 5 and all the other schools as well. And we're not talking about just a one-off, but 3 years and 4 years. That's excellent. I mean, you can't just get that anywhere, and it says a lot. So the job that is before us as board members is to ring that bell as loud as we can and as often as we can. And I think I'll get one, and every time I come, just ring it, because we really do have the best school system around. I'm sorry for all the rest of them. You want to be us, but you can't. I'm done.
Well said, well said.
Right, any other questions or comment on the capital plan update?
I have one. Is Caseman Lane preschool full? Is it
Yes.
at capacity?
It is.
Okay.
And we are working on some plans as we look, because if we move to a 6th grade hub model for some of the schools next year, that will allow us some shifts in pre-Ks around as well. That model has worked really well, having that standalone. The teachers love it, parents love it. You can really cater to those pre-K students. And so
Don't y'all have some more buildings to give us?
He's been awful quiet over there.
On the west side of town?
So our hope is with some of when we present a kind of a hub model for 6th grade, that will also include some maybe shifting of pre-Ks to get them in a more centralized location. I mean, we'd love to have a pre-K standalone building. It's just not realistic, but we can, again, let's shift them to where we have space and where we're not seeing huge amounts of growth.
That's kind of what I was driving at,
Yeah.
to free up some
Yeah.
space.
Yeah, so that will allow us, but if you look at overall no pre-K. Salem, no pre-K. Scales, no pre-K.
Right.
Caseman Lane doesn't have any pre-K classes in that building, it's in the pre-K building.
Yeah.
So those west side, we've already moved all those that we could out of there. I will say in summary, and this is our question, I think to summarize all this, again, forecasting is becoming more difficult for us. And that's something we've said for the last couple of years. It continues to be more difficult. I do expect a bump next year, even though we saw a decrease this year. I do expect that to go back up next year. And as we talk to the city about possibilities, we're looking at all options. We're looking at rezoning. We're looking at things outside of just a new building that, to put up. So, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Duke, you're still up for director's update.
Well, I'm going to sit back down for this.
Okay.
So I got to pull my notes. I don't have a lot of updates tonight. I did just want to say one thing. I've gotten a couple questions. Obviously, the federal government is currently shut down, and I've gotten a couple questions about the impact that has on us as a school system. About 10% of our budget comes from the federal government through nutrition funds, IDEA funds, and title funds. But we are not expecting, there's no interruption to us. So the federal grant awards are actually made in the summer and distributed to the states prior to the fiscal year beginning. So our states already have that and are allowing us to draw that money down. So just because there is a current shutdown at the federal government, that is not stopping our grant money that we depend on. Now, what it will probably impact if there were new grants to come down, that's not going to happen. But what I call those core federal dollars, title, IDEA, school nutrition, those are not going to be impacted because of the shutdown. I've got questions about the impact of there's been a lot of news stories about the federal government laying off special education staff and that department, how that's going to impact us. Again, that doesn't really impact us. We work with our state. Now, it may have some impact on the state, but we are not having ongoing conversations with the federal department about special education. There's really compliance monitoring, things like that. So we're not seeing an interruption to our services or our funding based on the shutdown. So I just wanted to address that because I've got a couple questions.
Thank you. We also wanted to remind the board, we have the TSBA Leadership Conference and Convention that's coming up November 13th through 16th. Lisa, do you need to, remind us of any deadlines?
Well, the deadline to cancel is tomorrow, or Thursday. 16th, yes, and, but I think I've heard from everybody, all the ladies are going, and so I think we have everything.
It's gonna be a girls' night out, is that what you're saying?
I even added Miss Jeanette and Karen to the delegate assembly, so y'all, all four of you are gonna be in the delegate assembly, so.
Girl power.
That's right. All right, great. Well, and so we all know, if we think we can't make it, we need to be sure we get out of this by Thursday so we don't lose money.
Well, I would say this would be the first one I've missed, but I just don't believe I can walk.
We will miss you. Yes, we will.
I'll miss being there.
We'll do you proud. We'll try.
I am
No, we'll
sure
try
the
not to
four of you
embarrass
will.
you.
What?
We'll try not to embarrass you.
Notice you said try. Madam Chair, what about the Discovery Guild? Is that another reminder?
The what?
The Discovery Guild?
Oh, the Discovery Guild. Yes, I'd love to remind you all about that. So I texted you all last night about the Discovery Guild. It's a group of people who support the Discovery Center. And there's an event coming up a week from Friday that I wanted to make sure they wanted me to specifically invite the board to come to that. Part of the reason they want the board there is that a lot of the fundraising that they do, what they're trying to fund is the ability to offer all second grade classrooms in Title I city school buildings the opportunity to come on a field trip where the fee to the Discovery Center and the transportation to the Discovery Center would be covered. So that's a push that they've had for the past, I think, 3 years now. So.
Extraordinary organization, another representation of what it means to have community in public education.
But if you can't attend, is there a donation link or something like that?
I would be glad to send you a donation link, yeah. They're always happy to take your money.
Yeah, I know they are.
Yeah.
Happy to give it.
Any other business to come before this board? All right, then do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night.